Morning dear students, a warm welcome to all of you for our today's digital session for the subject Science and Technology section A. We are going to proceed with chapter number 1, that is laws of motion from physics. Our today's topics for the chapter are distance time graph for uniform and non-uniform motion, velocity time graph for uniform velocity, velocity time graph for uniform acceleration, equations of motion using graphical method, uniform circular motion, and if time permits we are going to see the examples of Newton's law of motion. So without wasting our time, we will start with our first topic, that is distance time graph for uniform motion. Here I have not plotted the tables and all for you. Just I will tell you that if a graph of distance against time is taken, and here time is taken along the x-axis and your distance in kilometer is taken along the y-axis, then an object which is in uniform motion, it will cover equal distances in equal time intervals. We have seen what is uniform motion, what is non-uniform motion. So if the object is in uniform motion, then the graph between distance and time will always be a straight line, because here you can see that distance is directly proportional to time. So you can see here the distance time graph, the graph between distance and time is a straight line. On the other hand, for non-uniform motion, you can see that the graph of distance versus time is not a straight line graph. You can see the curve, because the distances are not you can say traveled in a uniform way. The object is having a non-uniform motion. We move on to the next graph, that is velocity time graph for uniform velocity. Velocity time graph for uniform velocity. Children, if you want to refer the graph, you can keep your textbooks open. Page number 6. On page number 6, you have the velocity time graph for uniform velocity. A train is moving with a uniform velocity of 60 km per hour for 5 hours. A train is moving with a uniform velocity of 60 km per hour for 5 hours. The velocity time graph for this uniform motion is shown in the given figure. Now with the help of this graph, you are going to answer certain questions. Our first question is, with the help of graph, how will you determine the distance covered by the train between 2 and 4 hours? With the help of graph, how will you determine the distance covered by the train between 2 and 4 hours? See here, between 2 and 4 hours, you are going to find the distance covered. So here you are going to use the formula, distance covered by the train is equal to velocity multiplied by time. You have the formula for velocity, distance upon time. Here you have to calculate the distance. So we have taken distance is equal to velocity multiplied by time. What is the velocity of the train? Just now we have seen the velocity is 60 km per hour. So that you are going to take as 60, and time is between 2 and 4 hours. So 4 minus 2 you will get 2 hours. So 60 multiplied by 2, 120. Now it is the distance, and so it will be in kilometers. Why kilometers? Because you can see over here the velocity is in kilometers per hours. So the distance will surely be in kilometers. So apply logic. Distance is velocity multiplied by time. Velocity is 60, time is 2 hours. So 60 multiplied by 2, 120 kilometers. We move on to our next question. Is there a relation between the distance covered by the train between 2 and 4 hours and the area of the particular quadrangle in the graph? What is the acceleration of the train? So if you see the relation covered by the train and the area of the quadrangle, yes, surely there is a relation. So our first answer should be yes. There is a relation between the distance covered by the train. So this entire thing you will copy, only the answer will be yes. Yes, there is a relation between the distance covered by the train between 2 and 4 hours and the area of quadrangle. If you refer the graph properly, you can see over here. There you will come to know about the relation. So first part. Second part now, what is the acceleration of the train? To find acceleration, you have to show the link. Distance covered is nothing but area of the quadrangle, that is area of rectangle, length into breadth. Now how you can find out the length? Length is nothing but the distance which is covered. So velocity is 60. So length you are going to take as 60. Breadth 2. Just now in the previous question number 1 we have seen 60 multiplied by 2. So the distance is how much? 120 kilometers. Velocity multiplied by time. Just now we have seen. Now acceleration of the train, v minus u upon t. Formula for acceleration, v minus u upon t. Now the train is moving with a uniform motion. So initial velocity will also be 60, final velocity will also be 60. So 60 minus 60 upon 2. So 60 minus 60 comes out to 0. So answer is 0 meter per second square. Why acceleration is 0? Because the final and initial velocity of the train is same. So 60 minus 60 upon 2, that is 0 meter per second square. Next is velocity time graph for uniform acceleration. Velocity time graph for uniform acceleration. What we have seen in our previous graph? Velocity time graph for uniform velocity. Now you can see here table I have given. Time in seconds, velocity in meter per second. For 0 seconds velocity is 0, 5 seconds velocity is 8, 10 seconds velocity is 16. So you can see in equal intervals of time the velocity is also constant. 8 to the 16, 8 to the 24, 8 4 is the 32. So here it is for uniform acceleration. Now looking at this graph, what we can derive from the graph? The first derivation is the velocity changes by equal amounts in equal time intervals. Thus this is uniform acceleration in accelerated motion. Our first derivation, look here, the velocity is constant for equal time intervals. That should be your first point, that the velocity changes by equal amounts in equal time intervals. Thus this is uniform acceleration in accelerated motion. Second point, for all uniformly accelerated motions, the velocity time graph is always a straight line. You can see here, the graph is a straight line. Next point, for non-uniformly accelerated motions, the velocity time graph may have any shape. Very second graph we have seen today, that it was a curve type. So if the motion is non-uniformly accelerated, then the velocity time graph may have any shape depending on how the acceleration changes with time. So from the graph, the average velocity of the car will be what? You can see in the graph, 32 plus 16. So 32 plus 16 upon 2. So 32 plus 16 you add and divide by 2, you will get 24 meters per second. If you want to see the clear graph, you can see on page number 7 in your textbook. You can see there velocity is 32 and 16. So both should be added, divide by 2 to get average. You know average means adding both the ranges and dividing by the number of observations. Multiplying this by the time interval, that is 10 seconds, gives us the distance covered by the car. So distance covered is what? 24 meters per second multiplied by what is the time interval? 10 seconds. So 24 multiplied by 10 comes out to 240 meters. So similar to the example of the train which we have seen previously, the distance covered is given by the area of quadrangle. So area of quadrilateral ABCD, you can see in the graph, area of quadrilateral ABCD, you can see in the textbook, is equal to area of AECD plus area of triangle ABE. So AECD plus area of triangle ABE. So this way you can derive for velocity time graph for uniform acceleration. The diagram, the graph is there ahead of you on page number 7. Now we start with our very important topic, that is equations of motions using graphical method. These equations we have applied in our previous chapter, that is work and energy, for doing the numerical examples. So here for deriving the equations of motion using graphical method, we assume that an object is in motion along a straight line with initial velocity u. It attains a final velocity v in time t due to acceleration a. Here you are assuming an object is in motion because we are deriving the equations of motion with initial velocity u. After a particular time t, it attains a final velocity v, and due to the acceleration a, its displacement is s. The three equations of motion can be written as: first equation is v is equal to u plus at. This is the relation between velocity and time. Second is s is equal to ut plus half at square. This is the relation between displacement and time. And third equation is v square is equal to u square plus 2as, relation between displacement and velocity. So these are the three equations of motion. First one, relation between velocity and time, relation between displacement and distance, relation between displacement and velocity. Now depending upon the material which is given in the numerical example, you can come to know which equation where you have to apply. If they have given v, a and t and they have told you to find u, you have to use the first equation. If v is not given and other things are given and you have to find distance or time, then you have to use the second equation. So depending upon what is given in the question, you have to apply that particular equation of motion. So now let us see how to derive these equations of motion graphically. First one, equation describing the relation between velocity and time, that is first equation. To get the first equation, you can see here a graph which is a representation between velocity and time. Now here you can see that the figure, it shows the change in velocity with time of a uniformly accelerated object. In the previous graph we have seen what is uniform acceleration. The object starts from point D in the graph with the velocity u. Initial velocity is u. Its velocity keeps on increasing, and after a particular time t, it reaches the point B on the graph. You can see here point B. So initial velocity object is what? U. That is OD. See, you can see OD. Final velocity of the object is V. That is OC. You can see the final velocity. This is the velocity. This is time. So initial velocity is U. That is OD. And final velocity is OC. What is time? Time is t, that is equal to OE. In the particular time t, it attains up till point B, it reaches point B. So time is OE, that is small t. So you have to apply the formula for acceleration. Acceleration AE is change in velocity upon time, that is final velocity minus initial velocity upon time. OC, final velocity is what? OC minus OD upon time is small t, so t. Therefore what is CD? CD will be equal to AT. Why? See geometry. OC minus OD is equal to CD. So CD will be equal to AT. Now here draw a line parallel to y-axis passing through B. This will cross the x-axis. You can see over here. Draw a line parallel to y-axis. This will cross the x-axis in point E. You can see point E, and this will cross the line BE at point A over here. So from the graph what you can derive? BE is equal to AB plus AE, all the coordinate geometry. BE is equal to AB plus AE. So final velocity V is equal to CD plus OD. Why? Because AB is equal to CD and A is equal to OD. You can see over here that we have just applied over there. So V is equal to 80, CD was equal to 80, and what is OD? OD is equal to initial velocity, that is U. So V is equal to U plus 80. This is the first equation of motion which is derived graphically. Same graph we are going to refer and derive the second equation of motion, that is relation between displacement and time. Relation between displacement and time. Here again we are supposing that an object in uniform acceleration A, it has covered a distance s within time t. From the graph which is given in the figure, the distance which is covered by the object during time t is given by the area of quadrangle DOEB. DOEB, you can see this quadrangle. So S is equal to area of quadrangle DOEB, that is area of rectangle. Here see, you can see area of rectangle is there, DOEA, plus area of triangle DAB. See, geometry, application of geometry. Say this entire quadrangle is what? Addition of this area of rectangle and area of this triangle. Now area of rectangle is AE into OE, length into breadth, plus area of triangle is what? Half into base into height. So half into base, that is AB into DA. So half into base into height. So base into height. So half into AB into DA. AE, all of you know, it is equal to U. OE is equal to time t, and OE is equal to DA, that is equal to t. AB is equal to 80 because AB is equal to CD. So S is equal to U multiplied by T plus half into 80 multiplied by T. You can see here, from here we have substituted the values. In place of AE we have put U, in place of OE we have put T, plus half into AB is what? 80. You can see here AB is 80 and dA is equal to T. So that we have substituted, and thus we can get Newton's second law of motion is S is equal to U multiplied by T ut plus half AT square. This we have got the Newton's second law of motion. The relation between displacement and velocity is Newton's third law of motion. So again that same graph we are going to refer, and from there you will see S is what? Area of trapezium DOEB. You can see here DOEB. This is a trapezium. So S is half into sum of the lengths of parallel sides multiplied by distance between the parallel sides. So area of the trapezium formula you are going to apply over here. That is half into sum of lengths of parallel sides multiplied by distance between the parallel sides. So half into sum of lengths of the parallel sides. We will see which are the parallel sides: OD and BE. See, parallel sides multiply by OE. But all of you know that OD is equal to U and BE is equal to V and OE is equal to time, that is T. So that you are going to substitute over here. S is equal to half into U plus V multiplied by T. But all of you now know that acceleration is equal to V minus U upon T. So if you want for T, it will be V minus U upon A. Now substitute in the previous equation. S is equal to half U plus V, you can see over here. So this T, whatever we have derived for T over here, that you are going to substitute over here, that is V minus U upon A. Now S is equal to V plus U, V minus U upon 2 multiplied by A, that is 2A. Now this 2A will go over here, it will become 2AS is equal to V plus U, V minus U. Now you know algebra. v plus u, v minus u, that is v multiplied by v square, plus into minus, minus u into u is u square. So what you get your final equation? V square minus u square is equal to 2as. If you take u square over here, it will become v square is equal to u square plus this minus will become plus. So v square is equal to u square plus 2as. This is Newton's third equation of motion. So we have seen all the three equations of motion which are derived graphically. So most probably such type of question will not be asked in the exam to derive the equation of motion graphically. But all the three equations should be learned. Only these equations, all the three should be learned by you thoroughly, and you should know how to apply them in solving the numerical examples. With this, we move on to our next topic, that is uniform circular motion. All of you know about the motion of the ceiling fan, how it moves in a uniform manner. So what is uniform circular motion? When an object is moving with a constant speed along a circular path. I have given you a very good example about the motion of ceiling fan. Moving with a constant speed and along a circular path, the change in velocity is only due to the change in direction. So here it is constant speed, so motion is accelerated motion. So when an object moves with constant speed along a circular path, this motion is called as uniform circular motion. You even know about the motion of electrons around the nucleus. That is an example of uniform circular motion. Or the motion of the stone in the sling, or that of any point on the bicycle wheel when they are in uniform motion. So these are all the examples related. Or you know about the motion of the planets in the solar system. They are also moving in a uniform circular motion. If an object moving along a circular path of radius r, now you know circular path, so radius r, takes time t to come back to its starting position, its speed can be determined by the formula speed is equal to circumference upon time. Why? Because circular motion. So whatever is for circle you are going to apply over here. You know circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So speed v is equal to 2 pi r upon t, where r is the radius of the circle. So here we have derived for uniform circular motion. Now we go to the Newton's 3 laws of motion. Total in our syllabus we are going to study Newton's 3 laws of motion. The first law is an object continues to remain at rest or in a state of uniform motion along a straight line unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. See different examples related to our day-to-day life. If a duster is lying on a table, unless and until you apply any force, unless and until you push the duster, you move the duster, it is not going to move from its place. Inanimate object, I am talking about inanimate objects. Or if you keep a pen on a table, then that pen will not move unless and until you push it, unless and until you apply any force from outside, that is known as external force. So the first law states an object continues to remain at rest or in a state of uniform motion. So here you can take the example of any moving vehicle. Unless and until you apply the force in the form of brake, you apply a brake, unless that brake is applied, that vehicle will continue to be in its state of motion along a straight line unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. This is nothing but Newton's first law of motion. So when an object is at rest or in uniform motion along a straight line, it does not mean that no force is acting on it. So if you think that the object is in a state of rest, that no force is acting on it, you know there are a number of forces, gravitational forces acting on it. Actually there are a number of forces acting on it, but they cancel one another so that the net force is zero. So Newton's first law explains the phenomenon of inertia, that is the inability of an object to change its state of motion or rest on its own. The object cannot, inanimate object, the object which does not have any life in it, it will not be able to change its state of rest or state of motion on its own. some external unbalanced force has to act upon it to change its state. So this is nothing but Newton's first law of motion. It also explains the unbalanced forces which cause a change in the state of an object at rest or in uniform motion. It also explains the unbalanced forces which cause a change in the state. Whatever force is applied, that is not a balanced force. The force is unbalanced. So it causes a change in the state of an object at rest or in uniform motion. So you only have to study the Newton's law of motion and support the law with any example. After Newton's first law of motion, we are going to study Newton's second law of motion. For studying Newton's second law of motion, you should know what is momentum. Momentum is denoted by capital P. Momentum is nothing but the product of mass of the object and velocity of the object. So m multiplied by small v, it is having direction. So momentum is a vector quantity. Momentum has magnitude as well as direction. Its direction is the same as that of velocity. Now unit of momentum will be kg meter per second, because you can see the formula mass. So mass is kg, velocity is meter per second. This is the SI unit, and CGS unit, it is mass is in grams. So gram, velocity is in centimeter per second. So gram centimeters per second. So what is the formula for momentum? P is equal to m multiplied by v. It is a vector quantity and its units are SI system kg meter per second and CGS system gram centimeters per second. What is Newton's second law of motion? The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force, and the change of momentum occurs in the direction of the force. So whatever force is applied to any object, the rate of change of momentum will be directly proportional to that applied force, and the change of momentum will occur in the direction of the force. Now based on it, we are going to derive the force equation. Suppose you consider any object of mass m has an initial velocity, initial speed is u. When any force is applied in the direction of velocity for a particular time t, its velocity becomes final velocity, that is v. Means you assume that an object is having certain mass m, it is in a state of rest. In a state of rest, it has initial speed u. On application of any force F for time t, the velocity becomes v. So the initial momentum of the object is m into u, mass into velocity. Initial is what? M into u. Final momentum will be m into v after a particular time t. So rate of change in momentum is what? Change in momentum in a particular time. So therefore rate of change of momentum is change in momentum. So mv, that is final momentum, minus mu upon t. Take m common, inside the bracket you will have v minus u upon t. All of you know that v minus u upon t is nothing but acceleration. So that is equal to m multiplied by v minus u upon t, you can take as a. So according to the Newton's second law of motion, the rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force. So rate of change of momentum is what? ma, directly proportional to force. To remove this direction of proportionality, you are going to take k, which is constant of proportionality, and value is equal to 1. So if you take f is equal to k, m into a, k is 1. So you will get f is equal to m into a. So in SI system, the unit of force is what? Newton. What is 1 Newton? The force necessary to cause an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in an object of mass 1 kg is called 1 Newton. If you want in the CGS system, dyne, the force necessary to cause an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square. See, both the definitions are same. Only in place of meter per second square you will have centimeter per second square. In an object of mass, here it is 1 kg, 1 gram. It's called here 1 Newton, 1 dyne. So what is 1 Newton? 1 kg multiplied by 1 meter per second square. And what is 1 dyne? 1 gram. multiply by 1 centimeter per second square. So today we have studied the different equations of motion. We have derived them graphically. After that we have studied uniform circular motion, and we have studied Newton's first and second law of motion. In our next session we are going to study about the last law, that is Newton's third law of motion, and we are going to study the law of conservation of momentum. Till then, keep on reading the textbook and understanding the concepts. Try to recollect the graphs, and based on the graph try to explain and find out different answers. Thank you.